Hi everyone and welcome back to Zero to Hero, the challenge where I go from level 1 all the way up to Keystone Hero. In the last episode I managed to hit level 64, so coming into this week the first thing I did was of course hitting max level, meaning that now we can actually begin the challenge of getting into Mythic Plus and getting to the score so we can hit Keystone Hero. But, of course, to get into Mythic Plus, we first need some gear. Right now I'm around 286, I just stinked, and the question is, well, what's the best way to get gear? How do I get gear? Well, first of all, World Crest is your friend. A lot of these World Crests will have like options to get gear like throughout the week. Definitely look out for that. I also just wanted to point out that you can do normal and heroic dungeons, even though I wouldn't really recommend it. It honestly isn't really worth your time. It's too much time for like a little gear upgrade you can get. You can of course do what I'm doing right here and actually buy the gear. That's always an option. I was honestly a little bit surprised by this method because I was expecting to have to put out a lot of gold in order to like really catch up. I only have to buy, it was only like 300 to 400 gold pieces like per item, and I managed to cut all the way up to 368, almost 370. Which I think is pretty close to actually reaching going into the first Mythic Plus. But downside is you're really not that pretty. The other option you also have is these world events, such as the Time Rifts or the Soup event or the Great Hunt or anything like these will actually also drop you pretty good gear and specific items and stuff like that. So definitely go on the run for those. Definitely worth your time if you just stinked and everything. But with our gear, let's hop into Mythic Plus. So the first key we actually get up here is an Underwood, a +2 of course. And I just, went to the lady and got it from her. I didn't do a Mythic steal or anything. We will actually in this run I just took the first one that came and we actually got a really huge tank. I think he was around 2400 score or something like that. And you will also see here in the damage meters, he's also quite geared. So we are actually ending up getting kind of boosted through this dungeon. And I just want to point out about this whole thing with I'm trying my best not to pick people who are very high eye level. Sometimes you can't sometimes you get annoyed having to wait so long, but so sometimes you take them, but usually I stay away from it, and I actually try to pick people who are quite similar to my eye level or my score or something like that, just simply because when you have people like a huge DPSer or a huge tank who just knows everything and has a really good route and everything, you don't really learn much. All you really do is just follow along. And I prefer, since I'm relatively new on Warlock, I like to be put in very weird and awkward situations, so I better learn what my class can do and stuff like that. With that said, you still have learning opportunities. Correctmo, this specific boss here is, something I was looking out for, because as I mentioned in my old video, or my previous video, Warlock gets really punished a lot for movement, and this boss is all about positioning and doing damage while also taking care of these these worms or these maggots or whatever. And here I am really trying out figuring out how do I best optimize my damage here while also moving, which is not easy. It basically boils down to just using Burning Rush and saving my cooldowns for when I actually the tantrum is going on, the AoE damage, and having the Burning Rush cooldown. But yeah, we manage. It's also just a +2 and we end up free chesting this dungeon. So very good start, very easy, very smooth, and great. So we did actually get an Nefarian Slayer and immediately ran into my biggest concern during this whole challenge, which is the long waiting time. This is 10 times speed and no one is joining. Now I do know that this actually gets a lot better when you start getting gear and as you start getting score and also go into more attractive keys, the more keys people actually want to play. But right now there is just it's all about patience. This is really the biggest challenge of this. This challenge is basically just, can you wait enough until people come? And yeah, I did end up actually getting a whole team going and everything. I think I waited for maybe half an hour, 35 minutes. I honestly just let it be there and like go and like did something else, watch some YouTube or something in the background. But this one is actually super interesting because I was honestly sure that this was already gonna be my first encounter with like toxicity. So what happens is our dear friendly evoker, no hate to the guy at all, he ends up actually butt pulling here and taking these like big crystal guys. And our tank is going, of course, the other direction. He wants to skip this whole thing. Now the tank's reaction is that he starts asking questions. What happened? How could this happen and everything? And I just felt obliged to like, answer him that, hey, like someone butt pulled. And he was like, well, don't do that. Like, why would you do that? And I'm like, trying to explain the situation that I'm pretty sure the person the evoker here, who didn't do it on purpose. But the tank just kind of like kept going and telling him that like that's really dumb and he shouldn't have done that and everything. But my point with this whole thing is just that I really quickly learned that this is not a conversation that's going to lead to anything good. So I was almost like continuing, like trying to explain him that he didn't do it on purpose and like we'll just get on. But like sometimes you also just let go. Like if I just kept on like pushing this tank, which I'm sure we just kind of misunderstood each other a little bit here, the toxicity would definitely have been like created. So a friendly reminder, just sometimes battles are not worth taking at all. And then with this also, like this poll right here, a little PSA to like all tanks out there is a lot of like new tanks will like really quickly figure out on like poll and recording of like their own survivability. But what's actually really important is also like noticing like what happens to your group and like what's the poll's like damage output towards the group is. Because like this poll right here is not necessarily that dangerous for the tank. Sure, there's the frontal, but it's actually, more damage like towards the party, and we are fine right here. But the tank actually ends up pulling the two packs right before the last boss together, which actually ends up like wiping the whole party except for the tank. And again, this all comes down to like he's fine and he will be comfortable. Like he's super comfortable, but like be aware of like your group here, like what like also happens to them, because sometimes you can survive something that, your whole party just can't, and that's not really that good for the whole run. This right here is actually where I thought that we were going into trouble with like the toxicity. So actually the shaman ends up pulling again, and with the tank already mentioned, I thought he was like annoyed by the evoker pulling before. I was sure that he was gonna have a bit of like a tantrum here, but what actually ends up happening is that the shaman just immediately say that was my bad, and he said he's sorry for that, and the tank just replied back with like, hey, no worries, no problem. Huge tip for like toxicity and just like you can deflate so much hostile environment by just like taking blame. Even though it might not have been 100% you who did something or didn't do something,
and then of course
saying my bad is
a
huge.
We 2-time it, that means that we get a 7. We actually end up getting.
So yeah, we also just again managed. I believe it's like 2 chests here. So that was like fairly good. Going into 7 Underwood again, and this tank is also. This was a really interesting run. So you see right here, I'm like super confused about like what's going on. Like, are we pulling more or like what's happening? But no, we actually just gonna stand like completely firm and just finally like pull a bit extra. But I'm sure it's gonna continue, but we are not. And this is actually gonna be a theme throughout the tank, like the the dungeon, that the tank is like super cautious about what he's pulling and like definitely what he's not pulling. Right here is also a good example. You see me going here to on the left, but the tank goes the other way. So you might wondering like, so what's so wrong about like, you know, going cautious, of going like extra careful? Sure, it's slower, but like, you know, you will make it in time, and we do make it in time. But the thing is that you also want to let your DPSers be able to DPS. You see me right now, I actually have Infernal up, I'm ready to go, but the tank doesn't really pull according to that, and it means that it's basically, you know, I'm wasting damage, I'm wasting time here. We could go faster and stronger. It's also gonna like mess up, you know, your cooldown rotation. So this actually has like a lot of importance to pull bigger when your party like requires it. And this is again comes with like, you need more information. So like Omni CD, like you need to know, I'm sure this tank is like not tracking our cooldowns or anything. And again, no hate to him at all. I'm sure it's like a little bit of experience. I am playing, you know, lower keys, and this is what you can expect. But it is fun, and it is, you know, you're learning about it, right? Me and the DK have actually been trying to help the tank out a little bit by like, you know, you see me here, he's only gonna pull this pack, but I'm gonna like force him a little bit on the worm. And this is again, I made a tank video a while back, and I still get comments about tanks who just refuse to pick up aggro if someone pulls more. And this is just a great example of, it's no like, I'm not meaning anything like mean by it or any, like I'm not trying to be a dick or a douche or anything. It's simply just to like help the group go a little bit faster, and to show the tank that you can actually pull more, you'll be perfectly fine, and push them out of their comfort zone. It's not always malintent that someone pulls more than you or like pulls for you. Of course it's nuanced, it's not always. Sometimes it is someone being an asshole or something like that, but I'm trying my best here. But we end up two-chesting it again, and it actually is going to end up being a Dragonflight that I'm gonna lower back down to 2, simply because I think I'm a little bit too undergeared for going into like, you know, the 10s. And I just don't really want to be, first of all, I don't want to be a nuisance for my team, and I just don't really want to be carried. I want to like kind of prove my way through it, if that makes any sense. So I do lower it down to 2, also just so I can get more of the Wellbring Crest, so I can like upgrade my level a little bit more and like get more like steady going. We do actually end up getting a cloak from our lovely DK here, which is gonna put us, I believe, yeah, right around like 375. So we are getting there, we're getting closer to 400, which is a really good like stepping stone to going in. But yeah, and here we are, the level 2, and as the title suggests of this video, this is the one where we are gonna fail this one. This is the third dungeon I'm doing on this character, a Mythic Plus dungeon. And this is the first time we're not gonna time it, or just actually not gonna complete it. So the run actually goes super regularly, super normal. The only thing really here to point out is the tank has a little bit of a aggro problem in the beginning, but I'm sure it's also because, like, you know, I did pop my Infernal as soon as he hit them, so, and I know with like my own playing Demon Hunter, it takes some time to like, you know, get your bombs up and like ready to, like spirit bombs up and like ready to go. So he might, you know, I might have been a little bit early there, but yeah, that was the only thing, like picking up. Everything else is like relatively like, you know, usual, normal. I do want to say, like, playing more, I did mention in my old video, previous video, sorry, that I was in between playing Demonology and playing Destruction Warlock, and you see me like throughout this video, I'm on Destruction right now because honestly, it's so much fun. It's compared to, I still enjoy Demonology, and I still really want to see Demonology, how it works in Mythic Plus. But right now, Destruction just feels like it's made for it. The only complaint I have about Destruction is simply just that, and it's not really a complaint, it's more about me not being used to playing with 3-minute cooldowns, coming like with, you know, my Infernal here, it's I'm used to playing as like, it feels like most of the game is like built around 2 minutes cooldowns. So I've noticed that like I go into pools where I think just from muscle memory that I have my cooldowns up, and then I actually don't for another minute, and it kind of puts me in this like weird positions where I use them at awkward times where I'm like, okay, do I need to hold on for them for like another minute, or should I just use it and then have it like a little bit later than the others? And like I'm trying to like mix it with when do I want it up for the bosses or the ads and like, you know, stuff like that. And especially playing in lower keys doesn't help this at all, because everything dies so fast that I don't really get that many infernals out like throughout the dungeon. But else, everything has been like super fun. It's a super like rewarding system, and it feels like a lot of my damage that doesn't necessarily come from my infernal, even though I'm really pumping off on, as you can see the damage meters, I'm really pumping off. But I also just feel like most of my damage are coming from the infernals that are just spawning every 10 shots, you know, that I have through my talent. So around here is actually where things are starting to go like wrong. Actually, this pull is actually perfectly fine, but the tank decides to pull the next two and actually like move away from them. So because they'll start casting, and then you don't have to take that War Scourge patrol that's going around. But the tank is he just flew off to pull the next mobs right there, and leaving us. I don't think he tagged them enough and leaving them to like, you know, aggro through. And the healer is not even close to this tank, and he hop into this this pack right here, which is actually super dangerous, like physically, without much like cooldowns or anything. So it ends up actually dying, and he releases, and you know I die here as well because of course I get aggro, and the whole party, you know, starts wiping as well. And of course, you know, the fact that the tank died means that like he resets all his aggro, and we have like continues to damage, so we have like build up the aggro, and the healer dies, and then he immediately leaves. Yeah, that was a little bit like, I don't know, a little bit uncalled for. It seemed like it was a fair mistake that the tank was like over exaggerating himself, like but like. I thought it was a little bit extreme to leave the group, especially like a +2. And I wish I could say that this was the only Holy Paladin that would leave in this video, but we actually will come back to this. Dragonflight is definitely gonna be the pain. It seems like for this season, I'm already tired of it. Now I'm a person that when something like this happens, I just can't play the same dungeon twice in a row. So I do something I actually really can't recommend you, which is I just randomly queue up for as many dungeons as I can. And the reason why I can't recommend it is because it's honestly without score or eye level or anything to like really advertise for yourself. It's really like it's a rare that you're actually getting in. Like there's gonna be so many TPSers signing up and everything. So I really can't recommend it. It's much faster and also like better just to do your own key. But with that said, I do actually get into a key. Now this vortex went seamlessly okay until that our tank disconnected and then died and then just never came back. And I honestly thought that like, okay, well that was it, we have to go back to Will Dragon. But no, our huge, amazing warrior says that he can tank, and we actually get a really even like huge eye level Hunter in, which just nukes everything, and as I mentioned before, just boosts us the whole way through. So not really much to learn about here. Just go through the dungeon. We get a cape, a back, but we already have one, so not really big. So we go back to our Dragonflight, and this time it goes like very smoothly. It's what you expect a 2 Dragonflight would be. There's no issues, no problem. Now my main goal has been to kind of just like get gear and like get geared up and get ready for the serious grind that's gonna be when I get into bigger, like, you know, brackets of keystones. So, but I also just wanted to make sure that I at least timed every single dungeon this week. So quickly went into a Nefarious too, a +2 only, just to get that marked down. Yeah. There's not really much to say about these dungeons. They are like over so quickly, and as long as you have a relatively like fine group, it doesn't really require that much. As long as you're like okay, then you will get through it like no problem, unless you have like someone who decides to leave after one wipe or something like that. We do actually end up getting a really nice ring from our druid, which is always appreciated. Going into a Halls of Infusion, I learned something extremely important in this run. Something that I am so thankful that I learned in a +2 and not a +20. And that thing is, of course, that when you're taking your portal, you are not invincible. You can still take damage, as I'm about to clearly like show everyone. Yep. Super, super dangerous. Super glad I learned that now and not later on. But again, everything went smoothly. We got through it. And yeah, on to the next dungeon. Yep, we are back. A level 8 Dragonflight Hollow. What could, like, you know, possibly go wrong in this dungeon? We are at the same pool as before, and this time we are taking both packs in here, which might seem dangerous, but is honestly super fine as long as you got the War Scourge fear. You can actually avoid pulling both of them. I think we might end up pulling it, or at least, you know, it's kind of common to pull both of them just accidentally. But what actually is going to happen is our dear paladin here, holy paladin, is gonna die. Well, I mean, so yeah, what can you do with that? So you know what that means. Onto like a quick like +2 just to like keep my sanity. An easy win, free hold. Getting like also like up there like score wise, like 500 is honestly more than I thought just for this first like couple of. We do go back and we actually do time the Dragonflight finally on a 7. Yeah, I'm so lucky, I'm so happy I got it done, finally. Can't believe that this is the dungeon that's gonna cause me so much pain. I'm interested to see if like if like during this run here, doing this challenge, like which dungeon I'm gonna look back at and be like, oh my god, never this again. We did miss a few percentage, which is fine. We got it here, and then I think the hammer drop for both paladins, but I mean druid, sorry. But that only leaves us with one dungeon that hasn't been timed yet, and that is Uldaman. So yeah, with like Uldaman here time, that has been like every single dungeon timed. Just for Fortified, and then next week we will start on Tyrannical and hopefully be pushing up a little bit more. So yeah, let's look a little bit like the recap here. As I mentioned, like just now, we did time all of them. We hit a 688 score. I have a fine enough vault for tomorrow, which I think is gonna like push me up a little bit in eye level. I'm almost at 400, which I think is really, really good. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. And also, like, I'm so excited to see us like push up in the brackets. You guys take care, okay? Bye. Take care, everyone.